everybody. This is Overpass Live. My name is Eric and I make apps. Happy Monday to everybody. Now, this is the first time we've done a live stream in a couple of weeks because it's just, well, last week was a bank holiday here in England. It was like May Day bank holiday. So I decided to skip that week. And also just sort of, we were doing the live streams every week and I thought maybe I'll try a little bit to do them a little less frequently, because a lot of the times we do talk about a lot of the same kind of questions each time, which is not a bad thing, because a lot of times, especially with new people coming in, they ask the same questions, so it's perfectly fine. But the one thing I do miss is just talking to you guys. Every single, there are days where I'm just dude, there's nobody here, and I've just been nobody to talk to. So this is the live stream. I was gonna say a weekly live stream, but it's the live stream where we just hang out and chat about apps and apps and stuff like that. Now I'm wearing these sunglasses because, dude, I got a sty. I got this nasty sty on my eye. It showed up pretty much on Saturday, but it wasn't so bad on Saturday, and then through the week it got bigger and bigger. But look at that. I don't know if you guys see that, but it's just I was going to go the boxing class, going to the gym class after the live stream, but now I'm thinking I'm not going to go just for the ew factor, just the ew. So hopefully it'll be gone in the next day or so. So hope you don't mind the sunglasses, just because, I don't know, I feel a bit, it's just one of those things. It's I don't think I'm particularly vain. I wouldn't think that I was. I'm thinking, well, if you guys don't care, I'll just take it off. But, for now, that's why I'm wearing them. So anyway, so it's been a busy couple of weeks. I've been working on a couple of things. I've been revamping the bubble bath games. So we have all these image assets and all these audio files and all these things all out there that they're all on Google Play, but Apple rejected them because they want a container application. And every time I go back to actually rewriting them and doing that kind of stuff again, it's the kind of thing where I don't really want to just to reinvent the wheel. It's got everything structured in a certain way. Not only that, but all the applications were translated into multiple languages. So they were language learning applications, but they were also translated into basically the six most popular ones, in my opinion, which were Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, Russian, and Chinese, both simplified and traditional. Those are the ones we had everything translated into in English, obviously. So a lot of the stuff would require going back to get things translated, new pop-ups and new stuff like that. So even the general flow of the application would change. It's just kind of one of those things. It's a hassle. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't done that. And and what else I've been working on? We've been working on a new client application called it's a business to business type application, and right now we're just trying to get some traction on that. Right, just started over the last couple of weeks the initial drip feed to try to get new users. Otherwise, I hope you can hear me. Let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. So, it's been a busy couple of weeks. What else have we been doing? Oh man, no, serious.
Could you try again?
I don't know if you guys have this problem. I got the Amazon speakers all throughout the apartment. I've got the Google speakers, and I've got the Apple devices. So every time I say anything that sounds like anything, something goes up and goes, I didn't understand what you meant. And I'm like, shut up. So anyway, I'm gonna take these off. You guys just got to get used to the fact that I'm no jokes about the Goonies or I'm not gonna say Baby Ruth, so don't even ask. So anyway, and also doing a lot of client work. It's one of these things where it's just the things are not as quick as they used to be. The app revenue is a lot lower than it has been. I'm just trying to get some traction on some other couple of stuff, and also the applications that I have. I just been going through and updating them. It's weird when you start working on stuff. So it seems like every time you start working on something, you have those times where everything just flows and everything just works the first time. You have other times where you just get these issues, these problems that just creep up, which is part of what software development is all about, is the troubleshooting. You're going to get stuff, those late night hours where you're trying to figure something out. I've been trying to deploy a Docker instance to Azure for a project, and it's just I'm getting no feedback back from it. It's just failing. that kind of stuff. So when you get to that, you're like, oh, and that's when the tendency of your mind has to go like this, like, hey, what's that over there? Maybe I could work on something else. But then you have to come back and work on that one thing. You have to hammer it out. That whole thing they say about the woodsman who chops at a tree over and over and over again, and he does it, or no, stone cutter wasn't a woodsman, but like, so, and he chops at a stone again and again and again and again. He taps on the stone, and then finally that last tap cracks. But it was every single tap up to that you couldn't even see the things for, and that's a lot what being a software developer is like. So anyway. Let's see. So who we have here? We have Rihad is here. Hey, Rihad, how's it going? Good. How are you? I'm doing well, except for the stupid sty. I hear everything so far. Thanks, Matthew. God, Matthew's here. MD says, hey, Eric, how you feeling? Memorial Day is just around the corner. That's the beginning of the drinking season. Dude, yeah. Well, we don't. So we had Maybank holiday last weekend. So, yeah, Memorial Day. Is that this weekend coming up? Oh yeah, it's a drinking season. Well, well, that's it. After our last conversation 2 weeks ago, what did we talk about? Last conversation 2 weeks ago, we were talking about drinking, and then we were talking about edibles, and then the conversation just went way off apps, but it was fun though. Let's see. Matthew says my active installs went back to over 2,000 and then back down. Oh, that sucks. Patrick says, what's your Docker issue? Basically, what was happening was I was trying to use an external store. Actually, it was a memory issue in the end, but it was like every single step leading up to that where because I was doing it on Microsoft Azure, and I wasn't quite, if I was doing it on a server, like, when you work on certain things, like if you don't know how to get the feedback from the response, like if something fails silently and you don't get any feedback, then that's where you're stuck. So most of the time, I know from troubleshooting like applications and like a lot of times in investment banks, you'd go down there and they go, nobody knows what's going on with this, and you know to look at the event viewer, looking at the logs, look at the registry, trying to see if like a log file has been written locally, what's been updated in the last few minutes. So you like reproduce a problem, and then you can try to find what is different there. And if you don't get any feedback, then you're just hacking away. Like all right, let me change this value. Nope. Let me change this value. Nope. Let me change this value. And because it was such a memory intensive image that I was trying to deploy, it takes like an hour, and then it just, so and I think it's a memory issue for the most part. It's one of these things. I mean, I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I mean, that's one of those things when there's always a solution to these kind of things most of the time. Like you just, when I work with some developers on some of my projects, they come to me and they're like, there's no solution. I guess we're just screwed. And like, there's always a solution. There's always a workaround. I just have to find out what it is, even if that means setting up a different Docker instance and and the thing is like just learning. Like when it comes to like Docker and Kubernetes, this is one of these things where I've like always wanted to get into it and learn about it, because it was a bit like unit tests used to be back in the day, where everyone would talk about, oh, this is so essential. Oh, this is so great. And you start looking into it and you're like, it's just, environment setup. Like, it doesn't sound that exciting. But everyone's like, no, man, it's a game changer. So I have been wanting to do it. Like, there's certain things that the hype of it is so big that you're like, I need to figure out what this is and everything. And I start watching like LinkedIn learning courses on it. And then in the end, it's just like, but it's interesting. I think it's because, like, as a developer, like, when it comes to deployment, like, it's like, I don't, you have sometimes where you're the developer and you have control of the production environment, which should never really happen. Like in big companies, that never happens. Like the production environment is looked after by the gods of infrastructure. They're like, no one shall pass unless release notes are written. And you're like, okay, fine. Like, step-by-step instructions on how to deploy this application. It's like, and which makes sense, because when developers get onto a production machine, their first thing is like, oh, it's a permission issue. Open permissions for everybody. Problem solved, right? And like loads of security issues. I've seen that happen before. So I totally get why Docker is important and why having the environment set up and the easily deployable environment is good. But I think it's because I'm using a pre-existing image from GitHub that is that I don't have a lot of like it's. I think I just need to drill down a bit more into it. But I'm like I made huge progress on it today, so it's just I think it's a memory issue that I have. Ren is here. Hey, Ren, how's it going? Eric, hope everything is well with you. It is, except for the style. I hope everything went well with the election. Let's see, Matthew. I had one of those at your eye, dude. Like I get them all the time. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I touch my face too much or I've been reading about it. Like, and everything I read about, like, how to prevent getting styes is like, make sure you take off your makeup every day. I'm like, it's like doesn't apply. So I think I did like use some facial scrub the other day, and maybe that did something. I don't know, but they should go away in a few days. But right now it's just like I think it's huge. Every day I get up, it's like it's worse. So but hopefully be gone. So wouldn't recommend. Let's see. Matthew says I have 21,000 lifetime installs on Google. That's really good. It's pretty good. I mean, you're moving in the right direction. I mean, obviously you're going up, but like it's yeah, because this is the metal one, right? This is the metal calculator one. Let's see. Rehad says I have an app, which is best in my niche. I've uploaded it 1 month ago, but daily install is only 1 to 3. I have written my app description by keyword research. Only my app have multi-language feature. Okay. Well, cool. I mean, it's gonna take a while for you to. I mean, keywords, like if you watch a lot of videos from back in the early days of the app stores, I mean, keywords were like that's all there was because there was the competition was all kind of starting at the same level, and even if you did have some competition like a bigger application, the algorithm has changed over time, so it's looking at a lot more things like the number of downloads you have, your retention rate, the number of backlinks you have coming in there, and it's the algorithm has always changed. The best thing you do is try to get users into it, and if you're only getting a 1 to 3, you got to think about well the big thing you need to look at, Rihad, is the user acquisition report. Gosh, I think it's a different name now. But basically what it does is it tells you how many times your app shows up in search, how many times the product page has been viewed, and how many downloads, obviously. So that's your funnel. So like if it's not showing up in search, then it could be a keyword issue, or people just aren't looking for it, or there's too much competition or something like that. Right? If it's not showing up in search, then that's where you have to look, right? It has nothing to do with your screenshots. It has nothing to do with your with how good the application is. It has everything to do with the number of downloads it has and how it's ranking. So you use a tool like App Annie to find out how you're ranking for certain words. And it's not called App Annie. There's a big news. I was going to do a video about this. It's not called App Annie anymore. It's called Data.ai. But you can still use that. The keyword search, the keyword checker tool is still free. So if you can register with that, you can use that to check your keywords to see how you're ranking for different keywords. And then you might have to say, the main keywords that you might want might be way too congested and there's like no way you're going to rank for them. So you might need to find other things that are synonymous with that other people would hopefully search for. So, I hope that makes sense. Matt says, just join, notice the eye, Sigmund Hapali behind you. Have you taken up boxing? I have taken up boxing. Now I've been boxing for like, when I say I've been boxing, it's like, but yeah, the eye has nothing to do with boxing. Although I did think about it. I thought I would say that I got this boxing, but anybody who's boxing would like anybody who's more knowledgeable than me. It's like one of these things. If I got caught out in that lie, right? So I just have a sty. But no, I go to boxing class I've been doing that at night. I'm not very good at it, but I'm getting better. It's one of those things where I say if you want to learn to do something, you have to be willing to do it badly. I'm doing it badly. So like, I get, a few months ago I was hitting the ribs so hard that I could, it was like I could barely breathe. No, I could breathe, but every time I sneezed, it was like my whole body would seize up. I would have all kinds of, different, like every single, like on Wednesday night they have sparring, and it's like it's not that. I mean, it's really good, but like I come away with my, my face is all tenderized, my nose is all sore, and everything like that. But it's fun. But like, yeah, it has nothing to do with my eye. So Patrick says Kubernetes is also great for scaling out an infrastructure as code, but I don't think it's always necessary unless scaling is a problem for your app. Yeah, I mean, this is like, so you're like way past me, Patrick, because it was like I, I'm doing something where it like I've always been a proponent of like if you're gonna learn something, you know, find a book and read it. Go from A to Z, because then that way you're not just going through and nitpicking certain things. But sometimes you're just there are times where I just want to get something up and running. So I'm like, okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? It'd be like rather than have somebody say like if you read a book or a tutorial, it doesn't have to be a book or a tutorial or something that goes from A to Z, then it'll be like, okay, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this, so that this other thing doesn't happen. And the best way to do this is this, because otherwise this will happen, right? An example would be when I went from Visual Basic to C Sharp. It was like, okay, how do I open a database connection in C Sharp? And it was like, okay, then you do this. So like nothing to do with the error handling or anything like that. It was just like trying to say, take this way of doing things and just nitpicking the things and filling in the gaps. And I think I was doing that kind of with in this situation. I think I need to do is take a step back and just do a little bit more reading to get a, like more like to know like the difference between Docker and Kubernetes. And it's Kubernetes, isn't it? Which I was watching, and it was like, you know, so let's see. Matthew Krupp. Yep. Let's see. System Modman 21 says thoughts on Flutter getting a lot of attention lately. It's been getting a lot of attention for a while. I don't think it's getting more attention now than it has been. It's definitely snowballing, right? These are so for me the two. Well, I guess it depends on what you're into. For me, the two are Xamarin and Flutter. Like I've got Xamarin projects and I've got Flutter projects, and I think it depends on what I'm doing. Like if it's something that's going to be very corporate, and you like, I kind of trust Microsoft to have like certain security protocols and everything in place, and I guess Flutter would too. But like with Xamarin, I find that I could move into native code a lot easier than I can with Flutter. Like the bridge is a little bit easier to do. I don't mean native code. I mean like the whole like all the iOS APIs are are in the .NET sorry in the mono runtimes, and then I mean the mono runtime is pretty comprehensive, so that if you had to have to write stuff specifically for each platform, you could a lot easier than you could if you were to do it in Flutter, where you would have to go, okay, I'm going to write a custom component in these two different ways. Unless there's a better way to do that anybody knows. But I think it's, I still like the fluid nature of it. One of the things that I find difficult with Xamarin, specifically Xamarin Forms, is just doing like simple shapes. I just have something that's fluid and like really good animations, and Flutter just does that really, really well, right? Flutter just has that nice fluid interface. And I still think the hero animation looks really cool, and then all that kind of stuff. So Rohit says, Eric, I just came back after watching Doctor Strange. Did you see it yet? Yeah, I saw it on Friday night. I think it was after the when the No Way Home, the Spider-Man No Way Home came out. It was like I didn't want any spoilers, so my son and I went and saw that like the first night. And like the next day, sure enough, like on YouTube, it's all these thumbnails with spoilers all over it. Everyone thinks they got the scoop, which really means is that it came out in their country a day before it came out in another country. So that was the thing. I went to go see Doctor Strange on Friday just to make sure I didn't get any spoilers or anything like that. So because it's weird. I mean, it's weird because as a kid, collect all the comic books and everything like that. I mean, I'm still the proud owner of Spider-Man number 252, which is the first issue with the alien suit that he got from Secret Wars. But when it came to Doctor Strange, I never thought that was interesting as a comic. I thought it was kind of boring. I thought Thor was boring too, but the movies are really good. I don't know what you guys think about that. Let's see. IBF Trade says, I have a question, Eric. Okay. How can I rank my app for a particular country, Eric? How can I rank? So okay. So this came in a few different times. you need to make sure you have the keywords for that country. Well, first of all, you need to make sure that it's findable in those countries. So if you go look at App Annie, you can select the different countries and what's ranking in those different countries for that. So if I mean, let's see, IBF trade. If you could send me your, I'll say if you want to have a look at it, we can have a look at it using data.ai, which used to be called App Annie. Data AI is a stupid name. App Annie, actually, App Annie. App Annie's a worse name. Like the fact that they actually like App Analytics, App Annie. There's a picture of a woman. We'll just call her Annie. But yeah, if you want to, if you won't be able to send the link through YouTube, but if you send it through the Discord channel, we can have a look at it. In fact, if anybody wants to send something on the general channel if anyone wants to have a look at a application, just send the link through on Discord, and then and let me know it's on Discord so we can have a look at it. And send it. Don't send it straight to me. Send it into the general channel. Matt says, I spent some time thinking about niche versus large audience apps, thinking about the pros and cons. Spent a lot of time recently working on large audience apps. Getting users is an equal problem. Niche, you have less competition but less potential customers. Large audience, you are a small fish in a large pond, but 1% of 10,000 customers in a large pond can work well. One key takeaway is the app needs to be high quality. Yeah, that's kind of one of those things where we need it for everything. The high quality thing is like, I think we need that across the board, and it's difficult with applications because you've got so many different devices to test. So one of the things I use, Azure App Center to do a lot of the device testing. So you can actually upload it into the cloud. You can write your unit. Well, it's not unit tests. It's UI tests. You can write your UI tests in like there's a certain language. I don't think it's NUnit. I don't think it's NUnit. But so you can actually say, okay, go to this page, wait 5 seconds, click this button, go this way. So you can actually have it uploaded in the cloud and run all these different devices, and then you get like feedback as to what failed and what didn't fail, and get screenshots and all that kind of stuff. The only problem is it gets a bit expensive to run them, all the time. So that's but there's always going to be some application that fails on some device and says, hey, this isn't working for me, and you got to go. Is it their device? Is it their environment? Is it their network connection? Are they just not understanding how it should work? Is it like a user understanding issue? Is it a genuine bug? Is it something that, but my whole thing is like, I kind of, you hear a lot about the niche thing, and I totally get that. And, I was thinking about like in the town that I'm living in, there's like, I don't know, there's like 5 pizza places. Like, this is a small town, and there's like 5. There's like Domino's, Papa John's, and then like at least 3 other places. There might even be more. I think there's more. But like every place that opens, I think, why don't we have a single Mexican food restaurant? Like, why do we have all the takeaways seem to be that one thing, that or fish and chips? And then you think, surely someone would just clean house to have like a niche like Mexican food. But then you think, well, it's not a proven market. So like you say, and then as soon as that did take off as a niche, then everyone would rush into it. But you're right, because if there's not a market for it, then there's not a market for it. But if there's a large market, then everyone's in it, and then you're in competition with everybody. Kubernetes. That's right. I didn't know. I was watching it, like this was on the LinkedIn Learning. Kubernetes. Okay, what's Kubernetes? Kubernetes is okay. Got it. Let's see. Rohit says, what do you think of hyper casual games? The stores seem to be pretty crowded with these nowadays. Do you think it's still a good idea to pursue building it still? Yeah, because there's always going to be new, like, nobody goes and just picks the next one down on the list. There's something that's going to rise up because it's unique and people like it. So it's like music, like saying, oh, there's so much country music out there. Is it really worth writing a country song? Because there's already so much, and you're like, yeah, because people who like country music like to listen to country music. People who like hyper casual games, they're not stuck on that last one they have. They like hyper casual games, so they'll be looking for that kind of stuff. The only thing is like, like writing like any kind of song, you still have the competition. You have to stand out from everybody else. So is it worth doing it? Yeah, but you got to be thinking how you're going to be able to do it. I don't think I can't think of a niche on the App Store that you could go into and you're totally new and there's this market just waiting. So as soon as you hit publish, they're like, thank goodness this exists now. We can just download it. You still have the burden of getting them to know about your app and actually be looking at your app still relies on you. Again, going back to this niche and mass market thing, like the mass market is good because people are already looking for that thing. If you said, well, the big brands of music are country, rap, rock, oldies. God, I don't know that much about music. Obviously, I don't know much. And I go like, you know what? I think ukulele music is really underserved, and I think there's a niche there. And I start releasing a bunch of ukulele music. There might be a little bit of an audience looking for that, but it'd be a very small audience. So but it would help me stand out from the crowd, and it's gonna be that same kind of thing. So the same kind of issue. So I don't know if that makes sense. If you guys agree with me, let me know. If you don't, then let me know too. Morris. So I'm in my bedroom now. If you're wondering where I am, the Muhammad Ali poster on the wall. I'm like, yeah. Since I started doing the boxing, I kind of got a bit into it. Morris says, Flutter would be perfect for your language games. I was thinking about that. I'm actually trying to do it in Xamarin Forms. Why am I trying to do it in Xamarin Forms? Just because. I might bail out on this. I think the data acquisition. See, there's certain things that I think I'm really comfortable with doing in Flutter. I think doing a business application like the data binding and network communications. Network communications aren't so bad, but the data binding and that kind of stuff, I don't find that works as elegantly as it does in Xamarin. But in Xamarin, other things are like having a high frame rate. Well, it has a high frame rate, but just doing something like a game loop or just fluid animations, it's not as easy to do it that way. And also just stuff like I just want to hide and show something. Oh, you need to write a value converter. And it's like, what? They're like, some things should just be easier in XAML, and they're just not. They're like, I love the fact in Ionic that I can just put an if statement in the markup and just have it say like, hide if it's this, show if it's this, whatever, and now I have to go, okay, let me create another class that will, like, if this condition is met, then hide it. If this condition is met, then show it, or all this kind of stuff. And certain things I just think are very annoying about that language and everything. So, but yeah, it probably would be. I was thinking, like, I was looking at, the language games. Looking at doing Xamarin Forms just because the data acquisition would be so easy. Just being able to load it up, store everything in a local database. Although that should be fine in Flutter too. But yes. So right now I'm at the bit where it's actually. So I wrote all these like Node.js scripts. Sorry, I wrote one Node.js script that takes everything, all of my language files and my image files, and creates and I created a Firebase repository, Firestore database rather, and it basically goes through and traverses the hierarchy and builds that hierarchy into Firestore, right? So that I could actually go through and add that security on there, and then I could write my data acquisition code in Firebase functions, and then have everything behind that wall there. That way. When Apple said they wanted me to have one big app for everything, that means all of a sudden I need to have a server, because for the language learning games, it was just like, okay, well, just, whatever, it's got like 60 audio files. I'll get those as small as possible, or, not 60, but a few hundred audio files, or, some image files, everything like that, everything packed up into one APK and put on the App Store. I don't have to worry about server maintenance, anything like that. Everything just kind of works. And when they said, oh, yeah, it has to be one application, a container application, you're like, well, now I have to think about downloading this stuff. And all of a sudden, the user experience gets worse, because I have to say, make sure that the internet connection is there. If they go to, like, download a new category, actually download it. And I don't want that to be a thing that happens all the time. I don't want to be on the server all the time, so I have to have a local database which I sync with the Firestore. Although local database is going to be SQLite and the Firestore is going to be Firestore, but it's something I've done many times before, and it's just something I'm just so used to. Adrian's here. Adrian Parks. Aloha gang. Well, you've changed your name again. Aloha gang. Just checking in while at work. Hope you're all crushing it. Yeah, hope you all too. Let's see. Chaplain Edric. Understand properly. Thanks. And anybody just joining, I got a sty. It looks nasty. I was wearing sunglasses and I thought, you know what? I realized the sunglasses, you just see the light on the camera. Let's see. Morris says Flutter is good for any 2D casual game where you want to hit every single platform that exists. Yes. I mean, one of the things that I found with Corona that I really liked was that, we did take some games and try to move them into Ionic, and what I found about Ionic was just using the same real estate. So like if I have like a game where the bubbles float from the bottom to the top, and I go from a phone to an iPad, I need to make sure that the pixels, like everything corresponds with it. So I need to make sure that somebody who's playing the game on an iPad doesn't have more of an advantage than somebody does on a phone, because it's moving the same number of pixels up the screen and all that kind of stuff when they tap on it. So, which is possible, but just thinking through that, and it might even just be some command to do it. So yeah, so that's one of the things, like using a game framework for that kind of stuff that I'm thinking about that would work best. Also, I was trying to find a really good way to use sprites. So I have sprite sheets in the language learning apps, and trying to do sprite sheets in a Xamarin Forms app, which is really good for business applications, but not necessarily for that. It's kind of like not something a whole lot of people do. There's a few libraries out there that do it, but not a lot of documentation on it. But yeah, and I'm wondering whether or not Flutter would have the same kind of issues, because there's like, I was looking into Flutter Flame, which is like this whole library game framework using Flutter, but I found that what I found the most annoying was I was reading a tutorial on it, and also using Flame, like using the latest libraries, and like in the whatever, it was like less than 6 months since that tutorial was created, and the latest update was done, where a lot of the libraries, they were like, the whole namespaces have changed. It had changed so much that there's like, oh, that's the old way of doing it. And it's like, so there's not an updated tutorial. And like, those breaking changes really bothered me with the Flame thing. So Mike Lippold says Selenium. Yeah, no, it's not Selenium. Selenium's like for web, I think. Actually, no. What's no, you could do does Selenium work with apps? Like there are app frameworks like that. So, but with App Center, they actually have the Xamarin, and C# has their own UI framework. But yeah, Selenium is one. Is app? Oh, what is it? What are the big? I can remember looking into this, because I think this is like the first time I ever really did. Like, I've done unit tests and like back end testing and stuff like that, which I think is really, really useful, especially when we're getting started. You need to make sure something works, right? You don't wait till like, you don't wait till you build the house and then find out whether or not it's it can keep the rain off. You actually have to, you build something, test it, build something, test it, build something, test it. And in order to do that, you need to have some sort of bootstrap framework or like unit tests or something like that. And that's where unit tests help me the most. Like, I'm not like the like so wedded to it that I have to make sure that I set up the unit test and I do the I write the test first and then I write the code. So I write the test and it fails because there's no code. Yeah, like that kind of, like that never, like, I get it, but there's like the it's not a religion, it's a tool that we use. So like there's times where I'm thinking, well, I don't need a unit test for this, but this one is like, okay, this one I really need to, I need to get my head through this. I need to like make sure that there's so many moving parts in this. I need to make sure that that we could test it, because something's gonna fall through the cracks if we don't use the unit test there. So when it came to actual UI testing, like it's only recently have I just started getting into that. So, and what I find difficult about the UI testing is like with unit tests, you can easily write mock classes and do that. But with the UI test, you're actually, taking something and uploading it to like a server. What's another one? God, I'm like blanking on all the services I've tried here, but there's a bunch of them. Yeah, there's Amazon has their mobile device testing center. Uh, Flutter has their, not Flutter, Firebase. They have the app testing. So a lot of these things you can just upload it. It'll try running on lots of virtual devices, but they're not free, and you have to pay for the server time and stuff. But then it's like, how do you mock up like I know like everything will work from my account because I can set up my test details, but then it's like there's all the other permutations of it. Let's see. IBF Trade says, how much can I earn on rewarded video ads if it's viewed by someone in the U.S.? That all depends on the eCPMs and then like how well your app's done, and like they're all different. So I'm working on a crazy app that can generate 100,000 monthly with zero maintenance costs. Can we partner? So you were just, so, I don't know, IBF Trade, you're just asking me like how much you can earn. So there's obviously questions there, and now all of a sudden you're telling me how much you will earn. I kind of lost you there. Let's see. MD says, I'm going through sexual harassment training for the 100th time. I cannot take it anymore. What'd you do? 100th time. Let's see. The info broker says, hey, Eric, what do you think about Google Play's many new policies and privacy policy, data safety stuff, even for small apps with just ads, basically making it more work for indie developers? I know. I think everything does. For me, the big thing is like all the tax stuff. It's like they keep coming to me saying, we need more tax information from you. We need to, this, and this. I'm like, it's, so there's that. There's all the new stuff about we need to ask whether or not your app's a news app or not. You're like, you need to ask every app if it's a news app. I mean, how many news apps are there? Or if it's a COVID tracking app, they need to know whether or not it's a COVID tracking app. Like, it's like, why wouldn't you just like, that should be something by default that's no, and you have to declare it if it is. Not everyone has to go in and answer this question. So yeah, it is getting to that point where there's a lot more regulation on it and everything like that. And I don't think it's Google's fault. I think Google is passing the buck for like they're getting. Every time they get in trouble for some app that shows an ad that's that's rude, or something that's like in bad taste that a developer puts out, somebody complains, the news complains, the congressman complain, everything, and then it's like, okay, we'll just make every developer do this one thing, and then so somebody coming new into it, you don't know the good old days where you put something out there and it would just be out there in hours. A privacy policy? Privacy policy. And now we got privacy policy for everything. And not just a privacy policy, you have to make the declarations about which kind of data you capture and what it's used for and all this kind of stuff, which ultimately is a good thing. But it's like, it's a lot of information to fill in. If you've ever worked, well, again, I keep talking about working for big companies, but a lot of times, like this, a common scenario I come across is like, okay, we're going to do this we're going to do this application, like somebody in this big company will contact me, and they'll say, we want this, I don't know, food production application or whatever. It's like, okay, so we're doing all this, and I tell them what kind of infrastructure you have. We could host it ourselves. We could have Firebase, whatever. And they go, okay, we'll talk. And then you'll be working on it for a few months, and then you have to talk to their IT infrastructure guys, right? You're like, okay, and they come in like, all right, they're putting a stop to all of this, progress. They're putting us on. Okay, we're going to send you this spreadsheet with a bunch of questions that make very little sense about how you're hosting your data, what security stuff, which IE, whatever number you adhere to. Or no, was it what all the kind of standards. Do you have safety policies? All this stuff, and you're like, dude, it's just like, we're just building this application. We're just trying to get this thing done and get it out the door. And they're like, well, that might be fine for you who ventured out to do your own little company and decided you're going to be this free individual. But I worked the ranks up to middle management in this company, and by golly, you're going to have to live by my rules. And that's what it feels like with Google Play right now. It's like, now all of a sudden, like we got all this stuff shoved on us. It's like, we usually just make stuff. Like it just, but ultimately I think when it comes to the privacy of users, then that's something I totally get. And when you the privacy policy, like if you're not using ads, then you don't have to worry about it. What gets me is like a lot of the stuff with privacy policies, it has to do with, using ad mobs. So like I'm not keeping any customer data, but I'm not tracking anybody, but ad mob is. So all of a sudden I need a privacy policy. But let's see. Apache says, I've two main criticisms of Flutter. Flutter code as a markup is impossible to follow, even if you break it down into smaller pieces. And I wish that state management were easier. Too many options. I know, wasn't it weird that I thought that was weird when they said, okay, this is a stateful widget and this is a stateless widget. And I'm like, okay, already I'm thinking, what does that mean? Like, and I was like, yeah, I know what I know what stateful means. I know what stateless means, but like, why do we have two options? Why can't they all just be stateful? Like, was that like introducing too much overhead, or is it like, yeah? Um, so yeah, I totally, yeah. So when you come to state management, I totally get that. And a lot of times, like we had this application, which, we're doing it in Flutter. Well, I said we were doing it in Flutter. It was an Indian company was doing it in Flutter. I keep saying Indian company. An external company was doing it for the client, and they just kind of went off and did whatever state management they wanted to, right? And it was like, they weren't using any particular pattern or everything like that. So when I got everything back, it was like everything was all over the place. Data binding was horrible. It was like, so at the top of a widget, it would be like, so we had like a widget that had like 50 text boxes in it, or like 30 or something. It was like a lot of text, but it was like this big form someone had to fill in. And so at the top of the class, they had like 50 text editing controllers, like just, and then you have the in the build method, you had like all of those, like not a function, not something like a function with parameters, like all of them, just padding. It was what is it, in a column padding, then another pattern, the text editing controller, let's no label, then whatever, and it was like, no, was like column, row, column, with the label and the text editing controller, and it was like, and the padding around each one. It was like, and it was like this page, it was like, it was hundreds of lines of like code, and and the first thing I did when I took it over was like, okay, this all these text boxes are pretty much the same. They all the same logic. So I just want to move these into their own control, and then like send parameters to that one function. So I just call that one function, and it made it a lot cleaner to read. But you're right, that kind of situation was just like, it was brutal to look at, right? Thank goodness for folding code. Let's see. Eric only partners with apps that generate 10 million in revenue. Good luck with the idea. Yeah. Yeah, so I've not partnered with any so far, but yeah, so. Chilling Code YouTube says, hi, Eric. Got a job recently. Congratulations. Pretty happy. Your videos have helped me while I was feeling sad before I got the job. Thanks for talking to us. Well, thanks. I really appreciate that. That's really nice of you to say. Because I know I've not been doing videos a lot lately. I didn't do a single video last week. So I mean, I know we got the shorts going up. There's a lot of the old stuff, which is like when you guys see the YouTube shorts, which Ren on my team, she's been like finding older videos, and like videos where I'm talking for like 10 minutes, and she like has to go through and find like, what is it it's actually saying here? And then she'll take it and condense it down into 1 minute, so we use it for YouTube short. And some of those, like, she'll send them to me to approve first to make sure they make technical sense. And I look at them, I go, damn, I've aged, aged a lot since those videos. And like, I've had people asking us, did you get a new Mustang? It's like, no, it's like an old, that's old. And I need to make sure that if she sends me something, it's not like something that's no longer relevant. Like, trying to think, what's no longer relevant? Yeah, like certain like types of like, ad mob stuff or whatever. I have to make sure that it's still as easy to do as it was before. Kevin, hey Kevin, how's it going? Let's see. Flutter Flame is version 1 now, so it should be stable. Not my first choice for game though, but that's a matter of opinion. I think when I was looking at it, it seems a lot more scaffolding and stuff like that. Not scaffolding. There's nothing automatic about it, but it's like just okay, here's how you structure your game and everything like that. And really, what I wanted to do was like, I want to structure it the way I want to structure it, but I want to have those modules that I could just use. Like I want to show a sprite and have the sprite where you tap it and it goes to this frame, and then if you know, it's whatever, like a normal sprite is cycling between frames, what, 1 and 10, as it's idle between 12, 11 and 15, when it's doing something else, and then this other one when it's when it's tapped or whatever. So that's kind of stuff I do. That's the kind of stuff I was looking to use. But it seemed like when I was looking at Flame, it was all like, okay, you set up your game folder, and then you set up this folder, and then this goes over to this. It was like maybe I was just watching the wrong tutorial on it. Let's see. System Modman 21 says best cross-platform technology in your opinion. Ooh. This is like definitely like personal choice because there's only so many that I've worked with. I would say Flutter. I mean, right now I'm pretty much in the Xamarin space, but there's a lot of stuff Xamarin is like if you want to find a custom component, a lot of times you have to pay for that kind of stuff, or it's a lot more corporate, and and I thought Flutter seemed like really was that one language that we could use for everything. Even though I did have like a lot of trouble and trying to do something that would be web friendly and app friendly at the same time, where that kind of, I kind of went down this route, and I think I got frustrated with certain things that were not working the way they should, or like I'm including some library, but it's not supported by web just yet, or whatever, and it was like just kind of, ugh. So like, but this was like a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that. So. But I like Flutter. What do the rest of you guys think? I'm trying to think what other cross-platform frameworks do we have? Because and we're talking specifically mobile, because I know JavaScript is really good for server and client and stuff like that. But aside from I don't know. Like I've never been big on React Native. And I know some people, and I know other people are, right? It's not like I think it's a bad thing. Like I know it's really smart people who are React Native developers, but I've never really been a big fan. And so yeah, no, I like the tools that I have. Another big problem I have with Xamarin is that because it's not the native framework, I keep getting issues where it's a bit slow to keep up with the changes to Xcode. Like if my Xcode gets updated, sometimes Visual Studio won't compile an iOS application right. Visual Studio for Mac won't compile an iOS application right, and I have to wait a few days for that to come out, or find some other workaround. Like right now, I cannot upload to the App Store through Visual Studio anymore. I have to compile it, sign it, have it say unable to validate package, and then go into Xcode, find that package, and upload it through Xcode, which is kind of like it used to be so much easier before. I feel like I'm just complaining, but I guess I am. The info broker says, "Hi, Eric, me again. Hello. I just wanted to ask that if I use the name Toyota in my app, like Toyota Racing Game 2022, will I get copyrighted for a suspension for that?" Yeah, I think you probably could, because you have nothing to do with their brand. So, yeah, I think you probably would be, or you could be. I think to me that sounds like, people have gotten way worse for that kind of stuff. Like we tried to do one Academy Award quiz, and apparently that was copyrighted. So I think we did Oscars quiz or something. There was something like we released something where we just had this quiz game, and it was like that was copyrighted. And again, this goes back to when we talk about the early days of the Play Store and the App Store. There was I knew people like other app developers like just released a Walking Dead quiz. They're like genuinely just feeding off the brand names of other things to get their apps on the App Store and to get that traction. And it was like just copyright hell. And now I think they're clamping down a lot more on that kind of stuff. It's not to say you will get suspended for it, but you could do so. Company InfoSec people love freezing projects and making them grind to a halt. I know they do. It is so funny because I remember I can remember what it was like when you get into that. The mentality is different. It's like the sorry, you're building what? And why didn't anybody run this by me? So it's because you look after the servers. Yeah, I look after the servers. Why didn't anybody run this project by me? It's like, it's like, I don't, yeah, okay, I'm a bit of a prima donna. Like when they say developers are prima donnas, yeah, we're prima donnas. So it's like, dude, you guys look after the field and we play the game. Like, yeah, like you gotta like just make sure the servers are good and get shape and maintained and everything like that. We're the ones who make stuff. Um, but you do have to deal with all that kind of stuff. And I totally like dealing with a networking team is like, oh my god, like you're trying to say we need to open up a port because we need to connect to this external API. Do you think you can get the external API company to just change their port to this instead? And you're like, well, it's Twitter, so I don't think we really have that kind of pull with them, like whatever, like, it's, or whatever. They'll be like, just, it's, yeah. I mean, sometimes you work with people who are pretty good, but for the most part, no. It was like, you know, they're like the prison guards, like, it's like, trying to, and you're the prisoner, I guess, in that analogy. All right. Let's see. What does that mean? Shouldn't report it to police? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, Cornfuck says, if you make a nice widgets, it's easier to make them reusable in Flutter. If you create nice custom layouts, it takes care of spacing, etc. It's nice. So it's so nice and straightforward to read Flutter code. No magic. Jetpack Compose, on the other hand, a lot of magic. You can call a unit, you call unit function calling other void functions, and all of a sudden it's a thing. Yo, Eric, you using anything other than Flutter at the moment? I use mostly Xamarin Forms. I'm using Xamarin, which is weird because I don't really use like I'm still using Google Firebase. Well, I'm using Firebase as a backend Firestore and everything. So a lot of times the when it comes to that link between Xamarin and Google, there are libraries there and they're pretty well maintained, but it's still like the documentation is like the community doing this kind of stuff is not all together there. So sometimes I get something working and I'm like, okay, that's just going to be the way that it does, and it seems like it's not as like Flutter and Firebase seems to be that they're the milk chocolate and peanut butter, everybody loves, but like, Xamarin and Google, like Xamarin and Firebase is like, it's kind of like clunky the way that works, but yeah, and the reusable things, yeah, I do like that. Like the I know if you use Visual Studio Code, so I use when I do Flutter, I use the JetBrains IntelliJ, right, or Android Studio, whichever, and they don't really have that, right click and change it to like, create an external widget from that stuff. So I'm a lot of copy pasting and stuff. But I think it's a lot easier in VS Code. But let's see. Patrick says Ionic 6 actually looks really nice now. Oh, Flutter or Ionic plus Angular? I still go Flutter. I think yeah, I don't know. Ionic changed so much. I mean, for Ionic 1, I mean, we're talking ages ago for Ionic 1, but it just seemed like I've had so much trouble with Ionic applications. Like we do some for our clients, and so as a developer who does them in Android, and then I do the testing for iOS, and a lot of times I have to rewrite stuff for iOS just because it's things just work differently, and we got permission issues and the blank screen of death and everything like that, and and now I know that it's not just Angular. You can actually do like React and everything like that, and I've just not kept up with it. Ever since, so I did a video about why, my concerns about Ionic, because we did so many, I have so much Ionic applications out there that I still, I say I don't maintain, but like I look after, like if something goes wrong, it's still me. I have to go in and fix them. And, so I was a huge fan, like I was like really got into it. And then all of a sudden it was, we had this, I did a video, like, because I read this article about like somebody saying the security holes through web view applications, like, there actually could be some security issues there. And I thought, well, what if and somebody says Apple shouldn't even be supporting it anymore. And there was like this, like a few people talking about whether or not Apple or the WebView application should even be allowed on the app stores. And I kind of did this video saying why I'm not going to use it anymore because I've had so much issues with it lately, and Apple's just getting more and more strict. And that video did really, really well for the channel. Like people were like, it did like if you search at one point if you search Ionic framework on YouTube, my video showed up at the top. Me sitting in my office with like, I think there was Subway sandwich wrappers in the background. I was like, just like, I'm just talking about it, and like all these people making these excellent tutorials, and even Ionic team doing all their excellent work, and my video came up first, and it was like people were hateful to me. Like some people were like, you're just clickbaiting or whatever, and some people were like, yeah, I hate Ionic. I'm like, I was just giving my opinion. Like I'm a bit worried about that, and after like a year. Even Max Lynch, one of the guys, the founders of Flutter, he commented on it saying, this is all, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and you're just whatever. And I was like, well, I respect your opinion, but I was just giving my opinion. Like, it was like, and later, and then like a year later, he says, look, it's really damaging us. Do you think you just remove it? And I was like, yeah, I don't want my channel to be like, it's like, it shouldn't be like growing based on the success of another framework, because they do loads of work and I just I do my work and then I just talk about stuff. So in the end I just removed it. I was like, sure, it's like, and it was like, so ever since then I'm kind of like, every time I have to work on a Flutter project, it just seems to go so badly. Like it's just like, okay, all right, which node version are you on? Which which npm version are you using? Which Ionic version are you using? Like it's like, did you, what did you not, when you added this to the package, why didn't you add this to the package.json, all this kind of stuff. And I just have so much issues with it. So, but I did love it for a long time. Rohit says, is there any alternative for the Unity engine? To develop games, which is free forever, unlike Unity. There's loads of, like, there's Coco's 2DX. There's yeah, I'm sure there's Unreal Engine. There's I don't know what's current now. I think but yeah, there should be some. And then of course, like the Corona SDK is the one that I use, but it's now called Solar 2D. Solar 2D uses Lua as a language, which is like, everyone knows Lua, right? But I was a real fan of that. But now that it's been open source and it's run by the community, I've always been a bit skeptical of starting something new with it. Especially when you like, okay, I need the latest AdMob libraries. Is there anybody still into it? Back when I was using Corona SDK was in like 2013, 2014. But I kept on using it into like all the way into like, I think the last Corona application I did was 2019. So I was like, but by that time, you didn't see a whole lot of, like, there was a Corona Geek podcast. They stopped doing that. A lot of the people were doing it. Like, it just sort of like, there were all these books out, and you're just like, all of a sudden, like, the community was just sort of evaporating. They were just like disbanding. And then, of course, with coronavirus was the thing. It was like, they changed the name to Solar 2D. And I haven't seen a whole lot about them since, but every so often I'll check because I have so much invested in them. Unity is free, Yeah. So trying to advocate for moving away from Xamarin at my company at the moment. Xamarin without Xamarin Forms is just native code written in C#, and that's a trashy way to work. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, because you think about, every time I have to do something like a native, it's like you can't even, like, every example you find, you have to go, okay, all right, this example is like done in Java, which is similar to the C#. So you got to do this weird, like, oh yeah, but C# sticks with the C# naming convention, so we got to capitalize this and whatever this, and it's like, lowercase string and an uppercase string, all this stuff. But yeah, and the Xamarin Forms it's nice because you just have that one unified thing. But it is like using XML, an XML based language is I used to think this about the XML based language, the in Android, which is like, it just felt clunky, like not so flexible. I like the fluidness of like Flutter, where you just like, oh, draw a circle, put this, I'm gonna, I have this text box. I want to put this text box inside a circle or inside a rectangle with rounded corners and all this stuff. And it was just easy to do all that stuff. And you can do some of that stuff in Xamarin Forms, but it seems like it just kind of drip feed out a little bit. Let's see. Infobake says one more thing. One more thing. Infobroker says. Will I get repetitive app suspension on Google Play if I make a car racing game and a car drift game with different UI and cars? Just so many changes since 2019 and doubt. Car racing game and a car drift game. I don't think you would. I think you're looking at, if you have like loads, then maybe you would. And with Google Play, they're not as strict as with the repetitive content policy. They're not as strict as Apple is. Like I've got like loads of similar applications to each other on Google Play. I mean, I haven't updated them for a while, but they're all pretty I've never had an issue with it. Even though when the repetitive content policy came out, I was like, oh man, here we go again. But like Google Play, I've really not had that much issue with. And I know we have some client projects that are kind of like that too, which they're very similar applications. Almost like reskins of themselves. And we haven't had any issues on the Google Play side, but you might. I think focus on one to begin with. Oh, and everybody, thanks for the thumbs up, by the way. It helps my eye. Let's see. Rohit says, yeah, but so up to a certain limit if you are using it for commercial purpose. If you are not using it for commercial purpose. Oh yeah, well I guess so. We're talking about the Ford one, right? Godot. Godot is a free game engine. Okay. Oh, Godot. Godot. Okay. I haven't even looked at. I have to have a look at Godot. I've never looked at Godot actually, to be honest with you. Oh, great. Thanks. I'll try it out. Okay. I have a game on Apple Store written in Godot. Add-on integration can be a pain though. Phaser.js is a free JS game library. Yeah, I was using Phaser.js a little bit. I think the first one I used was this back in like 2011. I was trying to use it was called, I can't remember but it was like this. I bought this JavaScript based game language and it was really, really good. But once you loaded into like a Cordova instance, it was just painfully slow. So and I don't know if that's still the same thing. If you were to use something like Phaser.js, I've done a tutorial on Phaser.js, and it seemed like a cool another situation of like setting up your scaffolding, setting up your what's it called, I can't remember. Like so, getting everything set up in a certain way. Unreal and Unity are not free, only no cost until you hit a limit. Yeah, so yeah, and that's one of those, yeah. I mean, but I guess if you, yeah, I never liked that. I never liked that the limit kind of thing. Like there's a lot of push notification companies like push notification companies or some companies that provide a certain thing, but when you get to this limit, then you have to pay, and you're like, well, by that time you're stuck in. Cordfunk says imperative UIs are not very fun to go back to after trying things like Flutter, Vue, React, or whatever. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, hey everybody, thanks so much for joining the live stream tonight. We'll do it again. Next time you see me, I'm gonna look 100% better. I'm gonna look, I'm gonna look back to my old self, not this baby Ruth. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week ahead. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.